they open up the door and they throw me on the ground. And with all of their weight, 5 of the officers get down on their knees and crush me under their body weight. And as they're crushing me under their weight, just because I'm trying to do what's right and rescue these women, they take my finger, my index finger. I don't know what they're doing, what their intentions are, and they take a needle and they poke the tip of my index finger, and I try to resist, and they go, no, no, no. And they poke my finger, and to this day, I don't know what they were doing. And then when I get into the jail cell, they literally throw me in there, no running water, only toilet water. I have to drink my own urine just to stay hydrated for the many hours that I'm in there. And it's freezing, and there's no blankets, no bed. So I'm in there, huddled in the corner, allowing this energy to transform, crying these tears. And then a woman comes up to the window, and she says her name is...
Well, good evening, folks. I know that I have not been doing as many videos as I would love to do, but we have Isaac Mars. He's got a very unique story. We talk about everything here. We talk about XRP. We talk about the quantum financial system. We talk about the galactics. We talk about stuff that I never had on my show before, but supposedly either you got tricked into being sent into a mental institution or you volunteered. My wife said, hey, you're not going to believe this, but I think Isaac Mars volunteered to go into a mental institution. So I said, okay, I got to hear about this. So please, listen, we should be doing these shows more often, and you should be on more often. The reality is I'm busy as ever you can ever imagine. We're opening
I get it.
Center in Cape Canaveral. As a matter of fact, in about an hour and a half, they have a huge launch, which is part of my entertaining, repertoire now. I never used to attend a launch. Now here I am in Cape Canaveral, 20 miles from the launch. And so tonight at 11:30, guess what I'm going to be doing with my wife? I'm going to go check out the launch, a launch that we haven't needed in a long, long time. The other day, I'll tell you a quick story and then we'll get into it. I'm at Publix supermarket and it's weird. It's like when you come here, it's like you step back into like 1960s when we launched the Apollo, supposedly the moon launch. And I'm going into Publix and you got a bunch of people like literally catatonic looking up at the sky. Nobody's moving. Everybody's looking up at the sky. I'm like, what the hell are they looking at? All of a sudden, okay, they have a rocket launch. And I turned my back and I walked back into the supermarket. And I said, the thing we haven't needed in about, since 1965, and this guy right behind me works for who? NASA, which stands for Never a Straight Answer. He goes, we start talking. I don't know how we got to talking, but we got to talking. And the guy said, I could tell you things, because I said, we haven't needed this in such a long time. We're ready for anti-gravitic, blah, 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 blah. And the guy goes, I can tell you things, and I want to tell you things so bad, but I can't because they're listening to everybody. He goes, anybody who works in NASA is being followed or being, sequestered, listened to, under surveillance 24/7. Because if I told you just a little bit, he goes, I would lose my job and I would never work for NASA ever again. Okay. So this is where we're at. Now, you were either tricked into going into a mental institution or you voluntarily went into a mental institution, supposedly because you wanted to see what it was like. Tell us.
No, not necessarily to see what it's like. It's a bit more specific than that. But here's what I'm going to do, Mel. If you can hold space for me right now, I have a story to share with you. And this story is going to be unbelievable for those watching right now. And that's because the truth is often unbelievable, because unlike fiction has to operate within the realm of possibility and probability. Truth doesn't. And my life is something like a movie, to be quite honest. And everything that I'm sharing with you right now, it is 100% verifiable. Well, except for the part that in which the police were involved in, because my sister in LA knew intuitively that I was having a run-in with sovereignty with the police. And she kept checking in Orange County over and over and over, is Isaac in the system? And nothing. What happened to me was completely black ops. It was completely unlawful and illegal. And the white hats, I have faith that the white hats are going to be holding these individuals accountable over the coming days and months. So without further ado, I'm going to jump right in. If you have any immediate questions, feel free to jump in, Mel. Otherwise, write it down and then I'll answer everything at the end.
No worries.
So,
Brother, I'm interested.
yeah, and for those of you that are new to me, I'm Isaac Mars, theoretical physicist, disclosing the theory of everything to solve gravity, dark matter, dark energy, time, free will, and consciousness. It's called Unity Theory. You can find it on my website, which is thecrimsoneagle.com. So this story, it all begins with the coming together of me and some soul family of mine. This soul family, I know from our experiences, from the magic that unfolded within us, that we have been together through many lifetimes beyond this one. And these soul family members of mine were holding specific energetic keys that I needed for this whole experience to happen. And what happened between us was the remembering of parts of our souls, parts of our mission that are basically beyond this life. And what I learned is throughout this whole experience, I learned how to focus and fully integrate the shadow. Now, this is something that if anybody's interested in how they can integrate their shadow, check out my website, check out my YouTube, and I'll be going over that soon over the next few weeks, next few months. But right now, all I want to share is that the integration of this shadow, when this occurred, it happened in a very charged scenario where me and these two other soul family members of mine were basically having a spiritual debate. And this debate got really intense and heated because the way that reality works, we are the creators of our experience. And it gets really tricky in the illusion of separation in this human realm when it comes to energy and who's creating what. So if I'm in a scenario and I'm choosing peace, but I'm around two other individuals that are choosing fear, they're choosing low vibration. If I'm more powerful than them in terms of my frequency, then that is very easy for me to just transform like that. But if you're around two people that essentially, let's say, have 2 million votes, 1 million each in terms of consciousness and what we're going to create, and I have only 1 million votes too, well, those 2 million votes affect my 1 million votes. So it makes it more difficult for me to have the free will and sovereignty that I would like to have being around such powerful reflections of myself. And in these situations, the best thing I can do is navigate how I'm going to deal with this energy that is being projected on me. So in these scenarios, these two soulmates, let's just call them of mine, they were not ready to integrate their shadow. They were not ready to see that what they were creating was coming from them, not me. And because of that, they were blaming me and projecting onto me their fears. And I was basically the bad guy in the situation. So after I reflected back to them, like, no, I'm not the bad guy. You guys are the one choosing this. They decided they didn't want to be in my vehicle anymore, even though the three of us were all traveling on the road together. So just outside of LA, my buddy who's driving my car pulls over. Our sister in the back seat, she starts getting all of her stuff out. And then he and I are talking, and I'm trying to get through to him, and he's just not having it. He's choosing to remain in the shadow. And then so he says, you know what, screw this, I'm getting out with her. He takes all their stuff. And in this moment, Mel, right there, I gained from their energies the exact energy I needed to reconnect with an aspect of myself that needs to be healed. And this aspect of myself, for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to go into soulmates and divine connections and romance. I'm not going to go into that, although there may be some elements of that. At the end of the day, I was guided to heal an inner part of myself, which is the forgotten woman, the woman that has been sold into trafficking, the woman that has been abused behind closed doors, where all of the darkest things on this planet happen. And we all have an aspect of that woman in us. And that woman, for those of you who aren't tracking who it is, it's Gaia. It's this planet. And when I received this energy, it was as if my whole human had been filled with, let's just say, the energy of God. And this godly energy, this divine energy pouring in through my crown chakra, going all the way down through my root, started guiding every action that I had, every turn that I made on the highway, every exit I got off. And suddenly, before I knew it, through signs, synchronicity, internal guidance, intuition, I was in front of a small apartment complex in Anaheim, California, just outside of Disneyland. And for those of you that are out there watching The Sound of Freedom and learning about how dark these problems are in our world when it comes to child trafficking, there are quite literally millions of slaves created every year of beings on our planet that go missing and taken into these dark agendas, taken into underground tunnels, sold across state lines, sold across national lines. And in America, based on the very movie, The Sound of Freedom, we learn that America is the hotbed on the entire planet. And what we learn when we're being really honest and we follow the money is that one of the biggest culprits in agenda and the child agenda is Disney itself. And at Disneyland, there are tons of instances of people going missing. So much so that it is quite impossible, literally, for a system like that to be able to continue on for as long as it has unless the government is involved. And as we learn through my work, everything is patterns within patterns. This is a free will universe, meaning governmental is govern to control mental, the mind. It's right in our face. So this is a story about sovereignty. This is a story about how the live life claim process, backed by David Wynn Miller's work with the Unity States of the World, a UN recognized nation that the UN will never admit on their website or publicly exists. It does exist. And this nation is the basis for New Earth. And this whole situation, backtracking a little bit, for those of you who don't know about me, last year on the 4th of July, I was tested to see if I'm truly sovereign. I walked the walk, experienced jail for about 20 hours, got myself out, and then when I confronted the judge online in the next hearing that I had her shaking like a leaf and everything was dropped.